I never thought my wall would ever cross the line between being annoying busybodies and being straight-up criminals. But a few months ago, I had one of the craziest experiences of my life. It started like any other ridiculous wall dispute and ended with handcuffs, FBI credentials, and a lot of very embarrassed people. Let me give you some background first. I live in a suburban neighborhood that on paper looks like the American dream. White fences, well-manicured lawns, kids riding bikes, retirees walking their dogs. The kind of place where you'd expect people to wave to each other, share casseroles, and borrow sugar. Instead we have an HOA. And not just any wall. This one is run by the pettiest, most power-hungry, entitled group of people I've ever met in my life. The president, let's call her Karen, with a capital K, believes she is basically the mayor, police chief, and judge of our little community. She once tried to fine me $100 for leaving my trash can out for 2 extra hours. On pickup day. 2 hours now. Here's where things get spicy. I work for the FBI. No, not in some super top secret James Bond way. I'm not Jason Bourne, but I am a federal agent, and my job involves counterintelligence. Basically, very good at spotting lies, manipulation, and when someone's up to no good. Of course, I don't advertise this. My neighbors just think I work in government. But the Wobbard, they hate me. Why? Because I don't bend to their ridiculous fines. I actually read the bylaws, challenge them when they overstep, and once even got a fine dismissed by pointing out a technicality. That was enough to make me enemy number one in their eyes. It was a Tuesday evening. I was sitting at home enjoying some leftover pizza, when suddenly, bang on my front door. Not a knock. A police knock. I go to the door and see 2 guys in navy blue uniforms, patches that say law enforcement, and cheap-looking badges pinned to their chests. Greater than, sir. Step outside. You're under arrest for violation of community codes. I actually laughed. I thought it was a prank at first. Arrest for what, exactly? The taller guy, let's call him Officer Wannabe, says failure to comply with WA directives, repeated violations, and harassment of board members. We've been authorized to take you into custody. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing harder. These guys were dead serious. They even had plastic handcuffs dangling from their belts, like they just walked out of a Halloween store. Now, here's the thing. I could have flashed my badge right then and there, but my instincts told me to play along. I wanted to see how far these clowns would go, so I said, "Oh, wow, that sounds serious. Can I at least grab my wallet and ID?" They hesitated, then nodded as I went inside. I grabbed my real badge and tucked it into my back pocket. Then I turned on the little camera I keep in my hallway for security when I came back. They tried to cuff me. That's when I said calmly, "Gentlemen, before you put those plastic toys on me, why don't you tell me what agency you're with?" They puffed up their chests. Greater than we're the official WA Police Force Board authorized. At this point, I couldn't hold it anymore. I pulled out my real badge, held it up, and said, "Cool story. I'm with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and impersonating law enforcement is a federal crime." The color drained from their faces instantly. They stammered. One of them tried to say it was just a neighborhood initiative. The other muttered something about community safety. I told them to sit down on my porch steps and not move. Then I called the local police department, who showed up within minutes. Turns out these 2 WA cops were actually just the WA president's nephew and his buddy. They had ordered fake uniforms online and thought they could intimidate me into paying fines. I didn't even know the police officers were not amused. Both guys were charged with impersonating law enforcement and attempted unlawful detention. The wall board had an emergency meeting the next day. Karen tried to spin it as a misunderstanding and claimed they were volunteers, just trying to encourage compliance. But the cops had already filed charges, and the FBI, aka my real job, was now involved. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Karen and her board were suddenly under investigation for conspiracy, harassment, and misuse of WA funds. Because guess what? They paid for those uniforms with WA money. Fast forward a few months. The WA police duo ended up with criminal records. Karen resigned after being threatened with civil lawsuits from multiple neighbors, the HOA board was restructured, and new leadership was voted in. And me, let's just say I became a local legend. Neighbors I barely knew came up to me at the grocery store saying, "Hey, you're the FBI guy who busted the fake cops, right?" What blows my mind is how far entitlement can go. People really thought they had the power to arrest someone just because they didn't like me standing up to them. It went from petty fines to fake law enforcement. In less than a year, I've dealt with foreign spies, corporate criminals, and fraudsters, but nothing quite prepared me for the absolute absurdity of suburban WA politics. So, moral of the story, don't mess with your neighbors. You never know who might be an FBI agent. Oh, and here's the cherry on top. The one newsletter, which Karen used to write like it was, the New York Times had a little blurb the next month, greater than the wall would like, to remind all residents that only local law enforcement has the authority to enforce laws. Please disregard any rumors about an wall police force. Yeah, I framed that issue and put it on my fridge because nothing tastes sweeter than victory over entitled people with plastic handcuffs.